Hello, listeners. Your trigger warning for today's episode is pedophilia, childhood, sexual trauma, rape, nothing nice. So, if you can't handle that, please skip Tanya Lee's story. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
How awful.
Hello, beautiful.
Hi.
How's it going? I heard it's wonderful in California.
That's a deep dive.
I've been missing you.
Does anybody know who sings that song?
It's true.
Could it be Bee?
No.
No?
Stop. So tonight. Okay.
Who sings that part? Is it Nick or Joe?
Joe.
Joe. Good talk.
Nick was the first part.
Who are you, Nick or Joe?
Depends on the day. Depends on if I'm feeling feisty or
I
not.
think you're more of a Nick.
You think I'm more of a Nick?
Yeah, because I'm the fucking weirdo.
You're definitely the Joe.
I'm the
Man, we're starting this episode less than a minute in. We've already dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello.
Whoa!
Who are you?
Hello. I'm Tanya Lee, actually.
Yeah, the potty mouth over here. It's
Yeah.
Tanya Lee.
I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
And I'm B.
Wee!
Wee!
What are we drinking tonight?
La Croix and ginger beer, because it's dry January and we hate it here.
It's been rough.
It has not been a fun time, and I continuously question why I'm doing this to myself.
We're almost halfway through January, though, already.
It is the 11th.
A lot has
We
happened.
have 20 days left.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot has happened.
Yeah.
Domestic terrorists raided the Capitol.
Yeah, there's that.
That
we
happened.
didn't drink.
We didn't even drink through it. It was pretty alarming, pretty uncool.
A little bit. But from an objective standpoint, it's a little funny.
I mean,
not the death and dying part, not the, bunch of people trying to overthrow our democracy and a whole lot of Nazis. That part, not so funny. But, like, the other little asterisk facts, like that dude climbing the Capitol and then falling, and everybody setting it to Mario Brothers sounds. So it's like, do, 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 do. And then when he falls, it's like,
the only thing that makes it funny to me is just the lack of intelligence.
Yeah, they all look like morons.
Yeah.
None of those people look intelligent.
No.
The dude in the, Minotaur costume?
Yeah.
Did you hear that he's in jail currently? He hasn't eaten since Friday. He's refusing to eat because they're not serving him organic food. It's almost like he's in jail.
Wow.
Keep starving yourself.
You are
moron.
still privileged.
Yep.
While you're in jail. You're still acting like a privileged jerk.
Yep.
Okay.
And a moment of silence for the just the most intelligent person in the world who, while stealing a painting, tased himself in the balls, had a heart attack, and died. R.I.P. Moron.
Another funny, I think we're just trying to make light of this because it was so awful.
It was horrible.
We're doing what we do, where we find
Make
something
jokes.
awful and we try to make jokes about it. The part where they broke into the Capitol, breaking glass and shattering doors and just completely ruining everything, and then they walked within the red within the red ropes.
Gotta stay within the ropes, guys.
They stayed within the freaking ropes.
Yep.
Like, oh, we're just gonna recap our Capitol, but then we're gonna politely walk through this area.
Walking through.
Oh my God.
And
Morons!
their whole like anti-maskers, and now everybody knows your face, and now suddenly you're on no-fly list, and you're losing your jobs, and you're getting arrested because why? Morons.
Oh, the irony. Have you seen the people that are at the airport and they're crying in the airport because they can't leave?
because they can't leave.
Yeah.
Hilarious. That moron white woman, Elizabeth, who was rubbing an onion on her eyes on national television, saying she got maced as if we couldn't see the freaking onion that she was holding.
Honestly, it's funny, but it boils under my skin. It makes me very angry. To think about.
It's when I say funny, I don't mean funny, haha.
It's just so ridiculous that you can't not laugh at it a little bit.
Yeah. You have to laugh to keep from
Crying.
gutturally screaming into the void.
Oh, man.
That is America.
Yeah, there's probably a 1-800 number for that.
Yeah, probably.
Scream into the void of America. Yeah, I texted B that day and I was like, because I was supposed to run the robot vacuum, and I was like, I forgot to run the robot vacuum because America, the dumpster fire was very distracting.
Yeah.
That was not so wonderful. It was pretty
No,
awful.
that was a how awful.
So if anybody's listening to this who participated or will be participating in any of those acts, you can turn us off.
Yeah, this is not the podcast for you.
I think if I'm just going to make one point and one point only, if you're still listening,
Yeah.
it's that, a lot of people are trying to compare this to the Black Lives Matter protests and all that stuff, which, obviously, very different things. Very, very different things. Which, if you want to educate yourself on why, you can look that up. I'm not gonna baby you. I'm not gonna hold your hand through it. My biggest point that I want to make is, when we were talking about the Black Lives Matter protests, all we kept saying is we don't want anyone to get hurt. We don't understand why people are getting hurt at these protests,
Right.
Because they're peaceful and there shouldn't be people getting hurt at them. I want to extend the same feeling towards the Capitol protests.
Yeah.
I don't understand why anybody would need to get hurt. And to be fair, a lot of people did not get hurt. There were people that died, yes. But the way that those people were treated in comparison to how the peaceful
Literally
Black Lives Matter
held their hand walking them down the steps
is night and day. Yeah. It's night and day. And that is the definition of white privilege.
The greatest side-by-side comparison I saw was from the Black Lives Matter protests when you saw the police officers that were destroying the gallons of water that were there to help the people who'd been tear gassed, compared to the police officer that was gently cradling one of the Capitol protesters' heads and pouring water into their eyes to clear it of the tear gas.
Right. That is the major difference. When Colin Kaepernick took a knee.
That was the wrong way to protest.
That was the wrong way to protest, apparently. We're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
And it was dishonoring their flag, yet they removed
the flag
to replace it with a Trump flag or a Confederate flag. Yeah. So you just confirmed to us what we already knew. It was never about the flag. It was only about silencing Black voices. And Bee and I are not down with that. So if you are down with that, you can turn us off.
Yep. Anyway, this has been political for the last 10 minutes. So let's move on to more awful stuff. Awful stuff that maybe isn't political. I don't know if your cult is political.
No.
Okay, then
no more politics. We're done for the night.
And my topic is definitely not political, but it is awful.
Okay, yeah. I hope now that you fast forwarded to the political stuff, here we are.
Hello, hi, welcome to the other side. Oh man, no, what we need to do is we need to tell people to fast forward to like a certain point, and then when they do, we need to be like, say something.
Drop a bomb.
Yeah, say something. No, just say something insane and completely out of context. Like, what did I just miss?
And then they have to rewind and listen to what we just said anyway.
And that's how I pulled that out of my cat. They'd be like, what?
I'm just leaving room for a reaction. Anyway.
So, our topics are exorcisms and cults.
And, that shook the whole apartment. Somebody slammed their door.
Somebody shut their door.
Just killed me. I thought it was an earthquake. And my topic was cults.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I was distracted by the shaking. The whole apartment shook and terrified me.
So this is no, not necessarily. You did possessions.
Yes, right? I did the house, the screaming house.
But that wasn't necessarily an exorcism. We're going for an exorcism here.
Yeah, I just went on the demon theme.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go on a journey.
Let me get comfortable.
This is a multimedia journey. I already warned her. There's going to be pictures that I will show her and post later, and there are going to be audio. So if you don't want to hear a demon possessed woman, just skip right along. Then I'll give you fair warning before I play it.
Off you go.
Yeah. So this is the exorcism of Annalise Michel.
Who dat?
She is the woman who inspired the horror film The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Ah.
But her fight with the demons that inhabited her made her infamous, as did the case that followed her death.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever saw that movie.
It's starring Jennifer carpenter. So Deb from Dexter.
Oh, duh.
It's the first thing I ever saw her in, and it is so haunting that literally the entire time I watch Dexter, it's still all I can picture. It's
Dope.
it's horrifying. It's scary.
Sounds
It wasn't big for critics,
Hmm.
but I saw it in theaters with my boyfriend at the time, and we both wanted to cry a little. Maybe did cry a little.
Sounds like a time.
It's a time. I personally found it scarier than The Exorcist, so that's just because I don't find The Exorcist scary.
No, I mean, well, we are also of a different generation.
True.
So I think these special effects are not that scary
No,
anymore.
no,
They might have been back then.
maybe.
Moosh. Okay, no, he's fine.
Anyway, so Anneliese Michel grew up a devout Catholic in Bavaria, Germany in the 1960s, where she attended Mass twice a week. So when Anneliese was 16, she suddenly blacked out at school and began walking around dazed. Though Anneliese did not remember the event, her friends and family said she was in a trance-like state. I want to show you a picture real quick of Anneliese so that you can see what she looked like before all this.
Okay.
So this is 16-year-old Anneliese.
What a cutie.
She's a cutie.
Mm-hmm.
Little brunette Anneliese. So a year later, Anneliese experienced a similar occurrence where she woke up in a trance and wet her bed.
No.
Her body also went through a series of convulsions, causing her to shake uncontrollably. So after the second time, Anneliese visited a neurologist who diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, a disorder that causes seizures, loss of memory, and experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations. I can't talk today. Temporal lobe epilepsy can also cause Geschwin's syndrome. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a disorder marked by hyperreligiosity. So hyperreligiosity is a psychiatric disturbance in which a person experiences intense religious beliefs or episodes that interfere with normal functioning. Hyperreligiosity generally includes abnormal beliefs and a focus on religious content or even atheistic content, which interferes with work and social functioning. So there is the argument that she was just severely mentally ill and she had this syndrome and it caused this. But seems unlikely given the events that follow.
I was gonna say I actually might believe that that's a thing, but I'm gonna let you tell me before you share an opinion.
Yes. So after her diagnosis, Anneliese began taking medication for her epilepsy and enrolled in the University of Würzburg in 1973. However,
Can you say that again? Würzburg.
However, the drug she was given failed to help her, and as the year progressed, her condition began to deteriorate. So that kind of goes against the idea that it was a psychiatric syndrome, because if it was, then technically the medication should help. It didn't.
It's like antipsychotics or something.
Yeah. Though she was still taking her medication, Anneliese began to believe that she was possessed by a demon and that she needed to find a solution outside of medicine. She began to see the face of the devil wherever she went and said she heard demons whispering in her ears. When she heard demons telling her she was damned and would rot in hell while she was praying, she concluded that the devil must be possessing her. So Anneliese sought out priests to help her with her demonic possession, but all the clergy she approached rejected her requests, saying that she should seek medical help and that they needed the permission of a bishop anyway. At this point, Anneliese's delusions had become extreme. Believing she was possessed, she ripped the clothes off her body, compulsively performed up to 400 squats a day. She crawled under a table and barked like a dog for 2 days.
Why is she doing butt exercises? To have a strong butt?
It's just I don't know. It's almost a muscle reaction. It's making her involuntarily do these movements. Can you imagine how much pain that causes though? 400?
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then she crawled under a table and barked like a dog for 2 days.
Okay.
She also ate spiders and coal.
Oh, golly.
And she bit the head off a dead bird. She also licked her own urine from the floor.
I'm going to put my ginger beer down now.
She displayed strength that was inhuman. In one instance, she threw her sister across the room like a rag doll. She was also able to squeeze an apple until it exploded, which is just not possible. She claimed they did not permit her to eat. So even though she was under 80 pounds, she was still able to do this.
Okay. Okay.
Finally, she and her mother found a priest, Ernest Alt, who believed in her possession. He stated that she didn't look like an epileptic in later court documents, whatever an epileptic looks like. Annalise wrote to Alt, quote, "I am nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do? I have to improve. You pray for me. I want to suffer for other people, but this is so cruel."
Mhm.
Alt petitioned the local bishop, Bishop Joseph Stangl, who eventually approved the request and granted a local priest, Arnold Renz, permission to perform an exorcism, but ordered that it be carried out in total secret. Exorcisms have existed in various cultures and religions for millennia, but the practice became popular in the Catholic Church in the 1500s, with priests who would use the Latin phrase "vade retro satana," go back Satan, to expel demons from their mortal hosts. The practice of Catholic exorcism was codified in the Rituale Romanum, a book of Christian practices assembled in the 16th century.
Good job.
Thanks. I probably didn't say it right.
We'll pretend.
By the
I
1960s,
support you.
exorcisms were very rare among Catholics, but a rise in movies and books like The Exorcist in the early 1970s caused a renewed interest in the practice. Over the next 10 months following the bishop's approval of Annalise's exorcism, Alt and Renz conducted 67 exorcisms, lasting up to 4 hours apiece on the young woman. Through these sessions, Annalise revealed that she believed she was possessed by 6 demons: Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Iscariot, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and Fleischmann, a disgraced priest. She was able to give accurate facts about Valentin Fleischmann, an excommunicated priest she claimed was one of her demons. He was excommunicated in the 1500s for inappropriate behavior, and Annalise had no way of knowing the things that she knew about him.
Oh, God.
She was unable to walk into holy structures. Like her body physically repelled it, and she would start freaking out. Continued to have epileptic type seizures and had knowledge of hidden information she had no way of knowing. So not just Fleischmann. She would know where things were hidden. She would know things about other people. She would know things about the priest when he came in. So like the scene in The Exorcist where she knows all about his dead mother.
Right.
It's like that. So all these spirits would jostle for power of Annalise's body and would communicate from her mouth with a low growl. So this is the part where you skip if you don't want to hear this. But I'm going to play a recording of one of her exorcisms. My mom will hate this very much. You probably will too.
Sorry, Rose.
So this is Father Renz. They're going to be speaking in German, but you're going to get the idea. And then I'll read you the translation of what was said.
Cool.
Here you go.
Ich verrichte so, dass ich in dem Wald rein bin. Ich schlag dir die Rotznase noch so lang, bis es leer wird. Ist so blöde Weib. Und jetzt kein Tore. Nee. In alle Ewigkeit.
She kind of sounds like the Godfather.
What?
You talk to my daughter.
Oh my God. She definitely doesn't. The translation. Father says, "Why are you all here?" Annalise says, "I have a right to be in this woman. I will carry this brat so long until she croaks. This dumbass bitch. For us, there is no coming back. Never for all eternity." He says, "Say your name." She then says, "I, Judas and Nero, Cain and Hitler. That's 5 of us." He asks, "Who is the 6th?" She said, "We lied about him." An unknown woman says Lucifer. So it could be her mom or her sister.
Yeah.
And then the father says, "You lied about him." And that's the end of that recording.
Yikes.
The demons argued with each other, with Hitler saying, "People are stupid as pigs. They think it's all over after death." It goes on through Annalise. That's what Hitler said. And Judas saying Hitler was nothing but a big mouth who had no real say in hell.
That sounds about right.
Yep. Throughout these sessions, Annalise would frequently talk about, quote, dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church. She broke the bones and ripped the tendons in her knees from continually kneeling to pray, but continued to kneel on her broken knees.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a picture of it.
Don't.
No,
Oh.
we're going to do it.
Sure. Can't
I
wait.
mean, this is her kneeling on broken knees, and also being restrained during an exorcism.
I'm confused about where the parts. Oh, it's from the waist up.
Yeah, There's another one of her fully kneeling. Her mom would put a pillow under her.
Oh,
You get it.
her eyes.
Oh, yeah, there's another picture. I'll show you in a minute. So, over these 10 months, Annalise was frequently restrained so the priest could conduct exorcism rites. She slowly stopped eating entirely, wasting away to 60 pounds. Until after 73 exorcisms, she eventually died of malnutrition and dehydration on July 1st, 1976. Her final words, quote, "Please, absolution." She was just 23 years old.
Oh my God.
And that's another picture of Annalise. So you remember what she looked like.
Yeah.
And this is how she looked before she died.
Holy
Her
crap.
eyes are black. She looks like she's missing teeth. She's got lacerations on her face. It's disturbing, to say the least. Anyway, so after her death, Annalise's story became a national sensation in Germany. After her parents and the two priests who conducted the exorcism were charged with negligent homicide.
Interesting.
Yeah, they came before the court and even used a recording of the exorcism to try to justify their actions. This was the first noted case of demon possession on trial in the courts. The two priests were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence and were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, so they never ended up doing it.
Okay, good.
And 3 years of probation. The parents were exempted from any punishment as they had suffered enough, a criteria for sentencing in German law.
Wow.
Yeah. Decades after the trial, the famous horror movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, was released in 2005. It's loosely because it's her name's not Annalise. Obviously, it's Emily Rose in the movie. She plays like a 19-year-old law student.
Okay.
Who starts, experiencing demonic possession.
They just used what happened to Annalise as inspiration.
It's a lot. Yeah. Basically, how she behaves and what she sees and who possesses her and how she dies is the same.
Okay.
And it follows the courtroom like case necessary because it's revolves around goes back and forth between flashbacks of Emily Rose or Annalise and the trial for negligent homicide. So it makes it really interesting.
So it's like not a spoiler.
No.
Yeah.
But one of the most memorable scenes from the film is a flashback of her screaming the names of all of her demons. So she's just shouting all of these names. And they all have different voices. It's really scary. Other than her inspiration for a horror film, Annalise became an icon for some Catholics who felt modern secular interpretations of the Bible were distorting the ancient supernatural truth it contains. Quote from Franz Barthel, who reported on the trial for the regional daily paper, The Main Post. He says, the surprising thing was that the people connected to Michelle were all completely convinced that she had really been possessed. Clearly, he doesn't believe it. Buses, often from Holland, I think, still come to Annalise's grave. The grave is a gathering point for religious outsiders. They write notes with requests and thanks for her help and leave them on the grave. They pray and they sing and they travel a lot. While she may be a source of inspiration for some religious people, the story of Annalise Michel is not one of spiritually triumphing over science, but of people who should have known better than allowing a mentally ill woman to die. What is your theory?
Well, I mean, obviously, none of this can be disproven in any way.
Go ahead.
This is
go ahead.
hold on for a second because I'm going to take you on a ride. You know how everyone's going to roll their eyes at me. You know how you can only access about 5% of your brain?
Yeah.
And we don't know really what humans could be capable of.
Right.
Wonder if a demon possession is a way that we've interpreted tapping into the other 95% of your brain in some way. Because
how do you explain the physical aspects of it?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you can tap into certain areas of your brain, maybe it makes you capable of, because your brain is what tells you to move, right? Your brain is what tells you your body parts.
Right.
My brain is telling me to squeeze my hand right now.
Right.
I'm opening and closing my palm. Maybe my brain will tell me to squeeze so hard to break the apple, and I could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's there's those cases of people who suffer a traumatic brain injury and wake up and suddenly they speak a language they never studied.
It's so crazy. It's fascinating.
There's, the whole, if your child's trapped under a car, a mother can lift a car.
Right.
Can find the strength to lift a car. So there's been theories that these type of things are possible. And she wasn't like, her body wasn't contorting, her bones weren't breaking on its own. So there is a fair case that this was a severely mentally ill person who was then tortured by her family and these priests.
Right. Whew.
Or, she was actually possessed, and that's what ended up happening. The thing that is like, the speaking different languages, the strength and stuff can be explained away, but how did she know facts that she wouldn't have otherwise known? Because I feel like,
I don't know,
people who wake up knowing a language that they didn't previously know had probably absorbed it in some way.
Yeah. And it just sat somewhere dormant in their brain. Yeah,
exactly. But if if these are not facts she'd ever heard, never read, never knew anything about, apparently she had absolutely zero knowledge of Fleischmann at all.
Right. Well, that we know of. Who knows?
True.
I mean, I don't know. But it's not that I don't believe it. I think it's way more fun to believe it. But I do have interesting theories of like, maybe how you... I mean, it's definitely not an explainable theory. My theory is still pretty absurd and out there, but I don't know.
I think the most depressing thing about this story is that this started when she was 16 and she didn't die till she was 23.
Right.
So
7 years.
Lived a long, 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 long time absolutely going through hell.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally going through hell, thinking she was in hell. But now that she's this weird, like saint to some people who like pray to her and leave her, like, that just doesn't make any sense.
No, that's a bit bizarre.
If anything, like, her possession didn't bring her closer to God, so how is she going to help you?
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting reading more about exorcisms as we go on and like tell more stories and seeing if they can be explained away by mental health.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting.
I want to find one that's like indisputable.
Yeah, especially that one. What years? It was like...
It was 1960. Yeah. Like something, like late 1960s.
It was kind of around the boom
68,
of...
I think.
Mental health.
Yeah, when they were still trying to figure it out, where it was still kind of considered like hysteria.
Yeah.
Asylums were slowly starting to come to light as horrible places and being shut down, and people were actually starting to take mental health seriously and treat it.
Yeah.
But they still had a long way to go. I mean, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we still do on a lot of things. What are your sources?
My sources were an All That's Interesting article about, obviously, Annalise Michel's exorcism, and once again, a BuzzFeed Unsolved video about the exorcism of Annalise Michel.
Cool.
And that's also where I took the excerpt of the recording of her exorcism from. So I will post that on our Patreon.
Cool.
As well as the pictures. And I believe there's a full recording of one of her exorcisms.
Oh, yeah.
For anybody who really feels like listening to some messed up German demons.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should put some pictures of her on Instagram, too.
Yeah, we'll put them on Instagram. We'll put the pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
We'll just put a little, like, warning beforehand.
Yeah.
Because, don't want to shock people suddenly, like, hey, that's a very malnourished, dehydrated, scary-looking young woman.
We could do it before and after swipe.
Yeah, but you know what happens on Instagram after... When you scroll past the first picture, when it reloads, then it automatically swipes the second picture.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep.
Oh, well, that was a journey.
That was a journey.
Thanks for taking me
on
it.
With Annalise Michel, yeah.
Spooky.
I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
It's a German last name, and it's Michel. I think that's Michelle. Might be Michael.
Could be Michele.
No, that's not how Germans speak.
Could be Michel.
Okay,
we have German listeners. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
tell us.
I should have text messaged Jenica, like, spell this out phonetically.
Yes, I know. Oh wow. Well,
culty time.
Should we switch to something just as awful?
Is it?
It's pretty. This is a really awful one.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry.
Take it away.
I'm so sorry. I hope that you heed those trigger warnings at the top of the episode. Okay. We are heading into Wichita, Kansas.
Sure.
At a plot of land known as Angel's Landing.
Okay.
ringing any bells?
Sounds familiar.
This is modern. So.
Yeah.
Occupied by a charming man who goes by the name Lou Castro.
Okay.
In 2002, newly divorced real estate agent named Jennifer Hudson.
Not the Jennifer Hudson.
No, sadly. Actually, no, fortunately. She's had it rough enough.
Oh my God. Seriously. We could do a true crime on her.
Yeah, poor thing. Okay. We'll get to that later. Yeah. But anyway, this Jennifer Hudson met a Texan man named Lou, who we just talked about, and helped him find this plot of land in order to build his own subdivision. Inevitably, Jennifer built a home at Angel's Landing for her and her 2 daughters, Emily and Sarah. A few families living at Angel's Landing were Lou, the Hughes family, which included Brian, Patricia, or Trish. That's how she went by.
Okay.
And their daughter, Nicole.
Okay.
Angel's Landing had everything you could ever want.
It had everything.
Had fancy things like sports cars.
Do it like Stefan.
No, I can't.
Okay, bud.
Fancy things like sports cars, horseback riding, constant parties, family vibes. Lou claimed that all of his money came from raising and selling cattle back in Texas.
Okay.
So he was very rich, very charming.
Aren't they always?
Yes. Lou told people he was an actual angel.
Oh, okay.
A seer. So we're doing the literal opposite of what you just told us.
Angels and demons today.
Literally. So he was a seer who could tell you the day that you would die. And he'd be the one to bring you back to life.
Cool.
Trish, who lived on the property, claimed to have witnessed him dying and coming back to life. So people trusted him because of that claim. He could see the future, and in order to do so, he had to suffer the consequences of having other personalities.
Okay.
His other personalities were named Michael, Daniel, and Amber. Amber was the angel of death.
Okay. Didn't know her name was Amber.
Me neither. The change in personalities would lead to the usually charismatic and kind Lou changing into a verbally abusive version of himself. When Sarah and Emily, Jennifer's children, would misbehave, he'd warn them that Amber was going to send them to purgatory, where they'd be forever stuck for being bad humans.
I hate when I'm a bad human.
Okay, this is the part that if you heard the trigger warnings at the top of the episode, you might want to skip this part. He told the young children at Angel's Landing that in order to maintain his seeing powers, he had to have sex with them.
No.
Claiming that having sex with them would, quote, fix them.
No.
As he
How old were they again?
Claimed they were broken. I'm going to get there.
Okay.
When Sarah asked him if she was fixed yet, he told her, no, you'll never be fixed, so I'm going to have to keep having sex with you, and if you tell anyone, I'll kill your father.
Oh, okay.
The abuse started for Sarah at 17, while Emily was only 11 years old.
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
This motherfucker.
Cool.
Saying the F word because I mean it this time.
Yeah.
In 2003, a year after Jennifer and her girls moved to Angel's Landing, Trish was watching Nicole and Emily when around 3 p.m., Emily calls 911. And a few minutes later, she calls Sarah, who was then 17, who she was at work. So she calls her sister while she's at work, screaming bloody murder. Trish Hughes had drowned in the Hudson's swimming pool. Emily, who was 11 years old at the time, was the only witness to Trish's drowning. Emily said that Trish had hit her head and drowned, trying to get her daughter Nicole out of the pool. Her drowning was declared an accident.
Okay, I'm going to guess it wasn't.
However, Detective Ron Goodwin, who's the new lead in our story.
Main character.
Yeah.
Here's the main character. Main character. Here's the main character.
Main guy. Okay, so Detective Ron Goodwin was suspicious. He was pretty sus.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Evidence showed injuries to the front and back of Trish's head. Her body was floating near the stairs at the shallow end of the pool. Her injuries were not bad enough to leave her unconscious. So she was in the shallow end of the pool, had injuries on her head that wouldn't have knocked her out. So why couldn't she just stand up if she was drowning? Is his argument.
Right.
Adding to his interest in Angel's Landing was the unexplained wealth within the community, particularly in Lou Castro's case. While investigating, Detective Goodwin found a newspaper article about an airplane crash in 2001 that killed 3 people, including people with close ties to the Angel's Landing community.
Okay.
Mona and Lindsay Griffith.
Oh, Mona.
I know. Mona was survived by her son, Cody, who was living with his dad at the time. Unaffiliated with Angel's Landing. He just lived with his dad away from all of them. Originally, it was assumed that the plane went down due to bad weather. But after further investigation, it was discovered that something froze on the plane. It was missing a critical piece called the ice boots, which essentially, I looked up what they were because I didn't understand, but essentially they protect the wings of the plane from icing over and interfering with airflow over the wing and the tail.
Okay.
So if those ice over, it reduces lift force, and then like the aircraft can't stay in air, it'll lose control.
Cool. Are they cute boots?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think they're just called boots because they go over the top. I don't actually know what they look like. I just know what their function is. Sorry.
They might. So you're saying they might be cute boots.
I doubt it.
Okay. Well, fine.
So so that was a bit sus, right?
Yeah.
In 2006, Trish's husband, Brian, was working on a car in his brother's driveway in South Dakota when the jack slipped out from under the car, inevitably allowing the car to fall on top of him, killing him instantly.
Fun.
Even though all of these deaths were ruled accidental, the pattern was suspicious enough that a judge gave Detective Goodwin permission to look into Angel's Landing's finances. Once he gets a look at the bank statements, he realizes there is no income coming from regular jobs or employment.
Okay.
All of the income is coming from insurance proceeds from these people's life insurance plans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Approximately every 2.5 years, someone would die, and the bank accounts would be replenished.
Interesting. All right.
Essentially, whoever was listed as the beneficiary on these life insurance plans would be the next to go. So basically what's happening is the beneficiary is just putting more money into Angel's Landing.
Okay.
And then
Gross.
that person dies, and then the next beneficiary is just, so it's just like recycling
This money.
the insurance from the other people.
Okay.
Yeah. So once Detective Goodwin started looking into Luke Castro specifically, he began to notice that there was no public records for him. No driver's license, voter registration, nothing.
He don't exist.
Yeah, he was like a ghost. Ghosty.
Ghosty boasty.
One evening, after consuming many alcohols,
How many alcohols specifically?
many alcohols.
I need a specific number of alcohols.
I don't know how many, but enough. Many.
Make one up.
1,000.
That's a lot of alcohols.
Yes.
He's a dead person.
Lou said to Sarah, I told you he was a ghost. He's an angel.
He is an angel who can consume 1,000 alcohols.
Yes. So he consumes 1,000 alcohols, and he says to Sarah, which reminder is Jennifer's daughter, who was being abused by him,
Right.
that Jennifer was the next to go.
Okay.
That she would pass in about a week or so.
Jesus.
Yeah. That night, Sarah confronted Jennifer about this, her mom, and Jennifer promised her nothing was going to happen. She'd always be with her. Like, don't worry about me.
Nothing's
I'm
gonna
fine.
harm you. Not while I'm around.
Yeah, exactly. That following day, Jennifer Hudson died from a head-on collision with a semi-truck, ruled a suicide.
Ugh.
Literally, that was the last conversation she had with her mom.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
You had one job.
So when Sarah was 24 years old, she met a National Guardsman named Daniel McGrath. When Daniel first met Lou and Sarah's sister Emily, who was about 13 years old at the time, Daniel noticed that Lou was touching Emily's thigh under the table and immediately started watching Lou like a hawk.
Good man.
Yeah. He confronted Sarah about it, who said no one would ever go to the police because they were scared of what Lou might do. So Daniel...
So there's more people in this cult than just this group that you're mentioning, right?
To my understanding, but there's not a lot of information out there.
Like, because this is a tiny cult otherwise.
It is a small cult.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Okay.
But anyway.
Okay.
Daniel took it upon himself to email the FBI. He stated that he had gathered information on a suspicious character and went on to state how he felt the accidental deaths throughout the years were no accident.
That is a definition of going straight to the manager.
Oh yeah, he Karen'd in the best way. Meanwhile, Detective Goodwin was still deep in the case, and he came up with a plan to gather Lou's fingerprints by presenting him with an envelope that included burglary suspects, hoping Lou would leave his print on the photos, like by touching the photographs, and like because he couldn't get a fingerprint for him because he didn't have any identification for him, nothing.
Right.
But Lou, clearly onto him, handled the envelope with the palms of his hands. So he held it like that and like...
Yeah, like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, and like shook the pictures out of it. And then once the pictures fell onto the counter, he started shuffling them side to side with the tip of his fingernail.
Dude wasn't born yesterday.
So he didn't touch them. After that happened, Lou and the rest of the residents that were still there left. They fled town.
Just they suspicious.
With Emily.
Yeah.
Who was 13, I think, at the time.
Still a baby.
Yeah. With the FBI's help, Detective Goodwin was able to track them down. They had transferred bank accounts from Kansas to a bank in Tennessee, revealing a new name.
Okay.
Joe Venegas.
And he just comes up with these things.
Yeah. Detective Goodwin contacted the bank and got video footage of Joe, quote Joe, opening a bank account and immediately recognized that it was actually Lou.
Or whomever he is.
Yeah. And he was with Emily and a new family member named Megan. I don't know anything about her, but she was there with him.
Okay.
So they prepare a warrant for his arrest, and they capture Lou and charge him with aggravated identity theft and Social Security fraud. They take his fingerprints while he's under arrest, and no matches were found in the database. So he was imprisoned under the name John Doe.
Wow.
Knowing that he'd be in jail for at least 2 years for those charges, they took that time to further investigate Trisha's death in particular.
Okay. The pool.
The pool drowning.
The pool death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Detective Goodwin reached out to Trisha's parents, who tell him that in the late 90s, Trish dated a man named Daniel Perez, who had been in trouble with law enforcement in Texas for sexually assaulting his 11-year-old niece and another 14-year-old girl. The word on the street was that he had died or that he was killed in Mexico. Goodwin requested a mugshot of Daniel Perez.
Ooh, it's Lou.
And he received a photo.
It's Lou.
Of our not friend, Lou Castro. So Lou/Daniel.
Daniel Perez, the pedo.
Was indicted for 28 counts, including rape, child exploitation, fraud, and the murder of Patricia Hughes.
Dang.
So Emily and Sarah are then convinced to testify against him. Emily recounts the events of Trisha's death differently this time.
Interesting.
She says she hears a splash and a scream, and within minutes, Daniel, aka Lou, comes inside, soaking wet and out of breath. He tells her, wait 20 minutes, then call the police and say that Trish slipped in the pool trying to get her daughter out, while he flees in his car to go to like a car shop to use that as an alibi.
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't home. I was at the car shop.
Yeah.
So he convinces an 11 or I think she was 11 at the time. An 11-year-old to lie for him.
Not a terribly hard thing to do.
No. Especially when that 11-year-old like loves him and like thinks he's like somebody that's taking care of her and all that, manipulative crap cult leaders do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her testimony was the nail in his coffin. He was found guilty on all 28 charges.
Dang.
And he was sentenced to 80 years in prison.
Okay.
All other deaths involved in Angel's Landing are still on record as accidental. I want to end this by quoting Sarah, now McGrath.
Okay.
She married Mr. Daniel.
Good.
Because I watched the documentary, and the way that one of the documentaries that I watched ended, I thought was a really powerful statement on her behalf. And she said, quote, I would just say to women who may be in my situation that it will be hard, but you can get out. Life does turn around. You may have to go through a lot of hard times to get there, but you can do it. You are strong and you can survive. You're not broken. End quote.
Aww.
Yeah.
She should take up an Etsy shop.
Yeah. She's G.
Make prints.
I just want to put out there the National Sexual Assault Hotline.
Do it.
Which is 1-800-656-4673. and also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline,
Yeah.
which is 1-800-273-8255. Because Sarah does say that she understands that her mother's death was a suicide.
Yeah.
But she thinks it was provoked by Lou.
Definitely.
Which I would agree with.
Yeah. In that case, it's kind of like manslaughter.
Yeah. That he somehow must have talked her into doing that.
How do these dudes find these people?
I don't know. I mean, I think...
it's always going to be a question for me. Like,
yeah. In Jennifer's case, she was newly divorced. This person was probably really charming, seemingly rich, said, build a home on my community. Come on, like, you help me find this. I don't know how he convinced her, but,
Right.
he had a way with words.
Right.
But yeah, I watched 2 documentaries, and those were my sources. I tried to Google his history.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to know, like, how did he get this way? Like, maybe he was abused or something, which I'm assuming probably was.
Probably.
But, like, I wanted to know how he got to where he was, but there's literally no information on him.
I mean,
he is like a ghost.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. He also, his real legal name is very generic.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Perez.
Yeah,
you can't Google him.
Thousands of Daniel Perez's in the world.
So I felt like the documentaries were really good sources. The first one was an episode of Deadly Cults.
Okay.
Season 2, episode 2, called Angel's Landing. And an ID episode of My Murder Story called The Devil's Angels.
All right.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Well, yeah, so that guy was pretty awful.
Yeah, that guy, I don't like him very much.
Daniel Luman.
Yeah, I don't like him very much.
No, he's really disgusting.
Yeah, no. We don't like pedophiles here.
No. And Sarah obviously was 17 when it all started, and she was the lead in both of these documentaries. I mean, she's been very outspoken about what happened to her and her family, and she goes on to talk about how she didn't understand when it was happening that it was sexual abuse.
No, a lot of them don't.
She thought that
it was love.
Yeah, he loved her, and that she genuinely believed that she was broken and needed to be fixed.
Right.
And he could only fix her by doing this to her.
Jeez.
And Daniel, when she met Daniel, her husband, McGrath, asked her if he had ever touched her or done anything to her. And that's when she finally broke down and understood what had happened to her was thanks to Daniel.
We stand Daniel.
We do. Yeah.
Daniel McGrath.
Daniel McGrath, not Daniel Perez.
No.
We love Daniel McGrath.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Good job, man. Good job putting a ring on it.
Yeah, good job going to the FBI.
Yeah, good work.
Daniel McGrath.
All right, well.
Do you have How Wonderful? Cap off that How Awful?
I didn't really think too deeply about my wonderful, so I'm going to drop a book.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a book. And it's a really cool, interestingly written book called LMNOP. My friend, who hopefully we will grow into a production company together, has optioned this book, and there is a screenplay adapted from this book. But the book is really interesting. It is written in letters, so characters write letters to each other.
Yep.
But basically what happens is it's this fictional town that has this... so there's this pangram that... there's this pangram that exists in town hall, and it's the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Right.
And they worship this pangram because they're like original discoverer of the town came up with this.
Founder?
Yeah, the founder of the town came up with this phrase, and it's like the shortest version of all of the letters in the alphabet. The shortest sentence that includes all the letters.
All of the letters.
Yeah. So people are like, oh, he's the smartest person alive. Nobody can top this.
Okay.
And then
he's a wizard.
Yeah. And then one by one, the letters start to fall off of the town hall building. The
pangram.
The pangram, the letters start to fall off. And so the entire town has to stop using the letters that are falling off. So if like the letter Z falls off, they can no longer say any words that have the letter Z in it.
Okay.
Which at first is pretty easy. But in the book, when you're reading the book, the author stops using the letters as the letters fall. And eventually there's like no letters. And like the way, like you have to like really focus to read the words that he's trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But the story is so interesting and it's so well done. And then there's this girl who, is trying to save the city and trying to give everybody essentially their voice back.
Right.
And it's a really interesting perspective on being silenced. And it's a really powerful book. And I think if you look at it through that lens and even through the lens of what's going on today, it could be for an interesting read. So
like it.
check out L.M.N.O.P.
Who's it by? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. L.M.N.O.P. by Mark Dunn.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my shout out.
I've been talking about that book for a while. I know it's
I read it in quarantine.
hopefully in the
great.
works. My How Wonderful, it's not awful. My How Wonderful is simple. I've already shared it with you. But I have been working in a profession for over a decade that has not allowed me to ever have weekends off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what weekends are anymore. My weekends have always been in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
And I'm finally, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to have Sundays off.
Yes.
In the near future. And my mental health can't wait because that means I get a day with my best friend.
Hey, high five.
But that also means I still get a day to myself, which I also need, which I think we both also need.
Totally.
I think we thrive when we have one day to ourselves and one day together.
Yes.
It's can't have too much of a good thing.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to finally knowing a little bit what a weekend is. And when life goes back to a little bit more normal, whatever the new normal is going to be, I'm going to be able to, go out on Saturday.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
And not have to worry about work the next day.
When we high-fived, we woke Izzy up.
Oh.
She immediately went back to bed.
Oh, okay. Good update.
Oh, good girl. Good assistant.
Yeah, she was a good assistant today. She slept on the job, but for her, that's being good.
That's behaving.
That's a good assistant.
All right.
Okay, let's see.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Are you ready to rumble?
I feel like I just did it, but did I not just do it?
I just did it.
Oh, no, I didn't. You just did it.
So
cool.
now it's your turn to do lore.
It's my turn.
And my turn to do celebrity deaths.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
This is a matchup we haven't had yet.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Lore and dying.
Lore and dying is indeed.
It'll be grand.
Yeah. Yep. That's next week when our podcast turns legal. Anyway, you can find us at howawfulpodcast.com. That'll lead you to all of the things. It's the one-stop shop. But if you're, into making things complicated, you can also find us on all the socials. We're How Awful Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, where we are transcribing episodes. I'm actually doing it, guys. I'm actually working on it. So we're going to get those uploaded. Add on more. Right now it's only up to episode 7, I believe, but 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and all of those will be done shortly.
Yeah. I think we have like some sporadically in there, but
yeah.
We're also on Facebook.
We're also on Facebook. We're also have a Patreon. That's the most important place. How Awful Podcast on Patreon, and what you're going to want to do there is give us your money.
Basically, you join our Patreon and you get all the fun goodies. We post there way more than we post anywhere else. We give you our inside thoughts on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Every Monday when the podcast goes live, our blog posts go up. Also resources, videos, pictures.
Things we haven't talked about.
You get a little bit more insight into the episodes. And eventually there's going to be videos there of us.
Mm-hmm.
Of our faces.
Our whole faces. Well, especially now that we're going to have Sundays off.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be able to manage that.
We're going to be able to do some things. We might actually be able to do that haunted hike.
Ooh. Definitely. That'll be on the to-do list for sure.
Definitely on the to-do list.
We'll have Joey come with us and help us out.
Yeah. And we're just trying to grow this, and we want it to be as entertaining as possible for you.
Yes, please.
You can also reach us at howawfulpodcast@gmail.com, where you can send in your survival stories. You can send in your really, it doesn't even have to be personal. If you know a lore story that you find interesting, or a celebrity death that maybe is more obscure that you don't think we'll ever cover, just anything you want to add, go to howawfulpodcast@gmail.com and tell us those stories, and we will read them on the show.
Yes, please.
Did I forget anything?
No, you a G.
I am a G, and I did it.
Good job. You a B.
That means I'm a bitch.
No, what?
I'm a bitch. I'm a lover. I'm a child.
You're
I'm
a B.
mother. I'm a sinner. I'm a saint.
I'm a T.
You're a T. Tanya Lee.
Hey.
And nothing in between.
Good night, Izzy.
Good night, Moosh.
Moosh is in a bed that looks exactly like him. It's very
He
confusing.
blends into the bed.
It's his camouflage bed.
It is. What are we?
Camouflage.
Camouflage. I hate that.
How awful.
And nothing in between, and no, I wouldn't want it any other way. As always, we've been Bee and Tanya Lee. Our logo was created by MJ Savard, and our theme music courtesy of Nikki Lou.